Braden says, I don't really know what this means, and I might be reading it wrong, so help me out here. It says, were you buying from Noah? Interested in role he played?
Okay, yeah, that would be Emmanuel Noah.
Okay.
Yeah, E.B. Noah, who's from Accra, Ghana. And yeah, I mean, I think that everyone that was in the ball python game at some point bought from Noah. You know, Noah was he was the strong arm of the ball python world in West Africa. And what I mean by strong arm is that, you know, when it didn't go his way, he would, you know, have people killed type of thing. You know, I mean, this is
the shit I love,
yeah,
dude.
he's actually the minister of forestry in Ghana.
Wow.
So he was in the government. He would confiscate shipments. He would steal shipments. He would steal from other people to sell to you. He would take your money and then sell your animal to somebody else. I mean, you know, you knew when you were dealing with Noah, you were dealing with the devil, you know. But he also got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I think everyone that dealt with Noah on any length of time had he screwed me story, you know. And he got me a lot. I mean, he did. He got me probably as much or more than anybody for two reasons. I'm gullible. For three, I was willing to lose to gain, right? You know,
yeah.
I tell people this all the time. I budgeted $25,000 a year of getting ripped off.
Yeah.
Every year I did business in Africa because I knew about $25,000 a year I'd get stolen. You know, whether it was literally stolen or it was not getting what I paid for. Well, either way, I would lose about $25,000 a year. And I looked at that as the cost of doing business. The last deal I did with Noah, and again, I'm not trying to bash Noah. I'm not trying to do anything. But the last deal I did with Noah was actually through Stefan Broghammer from M&S Reptilian. And I bought 3 super bamboos because bamboos were just hot. They were $15,000 for bamboos.
And when was this?
And this was, I don't even know. I have no idea of the year. But Noah supposedly produced the first super bamboos, which were leucistic, right? And no one knew they were going to be leucistic. And now some were like, all right, bamboos are now in the Bell complex. And we know that now they are. Well, what we didn't know is that, you know, he claimed that he bred bamboo to bamboo. And so I bought this literally buy and trade with Stefan, this deal that was literally $135,000 between trade and buy. And it was 3 super bamboos, some bongo stuff, and a few other things. I sold one of the super bamboos for $45,000, and I kept the other 2. The next year, myself and the guy sold the super bamboo, bred them, and they weren't super bamboos. They were bamboo to lesser. Ooh. And now you're talking about lessers were a couple $100, and the super bamboos were like $45,000. So I not only had to refund the $45,000, but I also credited the guy for his losses. I went back to both. So, and by the way, the bongos I kept turned out to not be bongos. So basically, out of the $135,000 deal I did, not one animal was what it was supposed to be. And the super bamboos were just really bamboo lessers. So they were worth, instead of $45,000, they were worth $15,000. And both, unfortunately, both of them said they weren't going to do anything for me. So I basically ate the money back to the guy that I sold the one to, lost a bunch of money on the deal, and ended up not getting anything out of it. So that was the hardest hit I took. I probably lost, at least $75,000, $80,000 in that deal, you know? And that was the last time I did business with Noah. At that point, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. So, but Noah, listen, Noah was responsible for pieds. He was responsible for albinos. He was responsible for clowns, champagnes. You know, another Noah story I'll tell you guys is that he sold me what he called a mint pearl. Okay. It was $50,000 for a adult male, mint pearl. Later that year, a guy in Italy bought baby animals that were called pumas from Noah. And what happened was Noah had this wild-caught mint pearl. He bred it, produced pumas, which ultimately are champagnes, okay? So I bought the first champagne male, the adult champagne male. He said that it was fresh out of the wild, but he bred it and produced babies and didn't tell me. So I bought this $50,000 snake as a one-off, one of a kind. I have the only one in existence. In actuality, he had babies that he had produced, and he sold them to the guy over in Europe. So now the guy in Europe has captive babies, and I've got a wild-caught male that only wanted to eat ASF rats, only bred like once or twice for me in its entire life. And this guy in Europe was way ahead of me. Now, ultimately, I produced enough champagnes that I got ahead and I did okay down the road. But and I did make my money back. It was okay. But that was kind of the dealings that Noah had. You know, he would sell you a one-of-a-kind animal knowing that there was 4 or 5 of them, or he would, you know, produce animals and sell you half of them and then later on sell them to another person. And so it was just the way you did business in Africa.
I love those stories, man. It's
Yeah,
like the
and-
coolest shit
yeah.
about the ball python world is the stuff that no one knows about.
Yeah,
dude.
and there was so much shady stuff that happened, you know, over the years in the early days of ball pythons. You know, there was massive amount of money, massive.
Yeah, because
I
there was
mean,
like mob activity,
it
like
was-
crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
like
literally people just would. I mean, I had people fucking hating me because I wouldn't sell them a $25,000 snake because I only had 3 and they were number 4 on the list. So because they were number 4, they wanted me to screw number 1, 2, or 3. Like that was what, like you know, and I would tell them, I'd say, well, what if you were number 2 or 3?
yeah.
You know, would you feel okay if I screwed you to sell you that animal over? You know, and then
yes.
people would be like, well, then I'm never doing business with you again. I'm like, well, because I'm a man of my
Loyal?
word.
Yeah.
You're not going to do business with me anymore. I mean, it was a crazy time in those early days, and everyone started fighting for the same thing out of Africa, and then you started getting, you know, like things that I was buying for $1,000, $1,500 were going for $15,000 or $20,000 in a matter of like a 2-year window.
That's so
And
crazy.
and then the thievery started over in West Africa like mad. You know, again, we were the first people to send people to West Africa for ball pythons. And then, you know, by the time I stopped doing it, there were, you know, 5, 6, 7 different people, you know, from America going there every year, you know.
Because now
So-
there's living gold. Right?
yeah,
In a
yeah,
way, you
yeah. I
know?
mean, and it was funny you say that because I was actually talking about a show way back in the day that was called Reptilian Gold.
Yeah,
And it was going to
that'd
be
be
all
dope.
about
The trade.
about West Africa, and of course, it never.
That would have been a badass show,
Would
too,
have been a
man.
great show, man. It would have
Machetes
been
and
amazing.
shit. Oh, my God.
Oh my God, the things that went on, and like I said, the characters. I mean, I could tell you stories about the characters that I mean, you know. And again, this was pre-internet, so like, and it was a 6-hour time difference. They were 6 hours ahead. So, and what would really happen was all the trappers would come into the to the exporters places at like 6, 7 in the morning at daylight. You got to remember, most of these places didn't even have electricity, right?
Yeah.
So the first daylight, 6, 7 o'clock, these things are hatching or they're bringing, so they would bring them in. So it's like 7, 8 in the morning, whatever the case is. I'm getting calls at 2 o'clock in the morning from West Africa. Guess what I got? You got it. And then it was always like, if I don't have the money by noon, you know,
I can't promise
he's
I'll be
leaving,
here.
you know? And so then I would literally have to be up all night. Western Union, or what we used a lot, MoneyGram, which is another, you know, money service. We would have to literally at 6 in the morning, they'd wake up. I'd have to be standing at Western Union at 6 in the morning with $20,000 cash, giving it to Western Union. They would take 12%. And then, you know, and then these people would have their money in hand by noon, so that this snake wouldn't go away. You know, it was crazy. It was.
I mean,
like,
that alone is just such a bizarre thing to think about.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a ball python at your PetSmart right now.
Yeah,
know
when
what I
you
mean?
go, I think what hit me was I was in Yokohama, Japan, and I went to a pet shop, and there was a pinstripe in there, and I remember that day going, holy shit, that animal came from me, you know, like
So
not
cool.
from me, but at one point the lineage
Traces back.
traces back to the day I sent $27,000 to Abomey Bonin.
So
You know,
badass.
that day, that's why that ball python was in Africa, or was in Yokohama, Japan. And that was cool, man. It's cool to have lived through that time and to see all the things that are going on now. And I'm so proud of the ball python community, guys like Jason, guys like Miguel and Billy and Justin Kabelika and Ozzy and so many of these other guys. I mean, the list goes on and on. JP and you know, on and on and on. You know, that they're just they've went from like this really petty, backstabbing, lying, cheating, stealing, and literally stealing. I've been stolen from like you can't believe. to now a pretty respectable community. I mean, there's still some cattiness. I hear it. I hear it. I'm friends with some people that are catty even to each other, and I try to mend those bridges as best I can, but it's gotten way better than what it was 10 years ago. And so I applaud the ball python community. And I think the ball python, I'll be honest with you, I was predicting the ball python world to crash. And I think it's as strong as it's ever been. And that's because of the leadership in the ball python community. And although at one time I was a leader in that community, I'm certainly nowhere near that at this point. But I do commend those guys. They're doing a good job.
Hey, and a lot of credit goes to you too, because most people wouldn't even know ball pythons unless you had your channel.
Yeah, certainly it all grows together, but it's cool to see, and I think it's pretty awesome to just, I'm now become the fan of the ball python world as much as they participate.
It's like cool to like watch it and like see all the crazy shit that's going on too. Yeah, for sure.
Can we rail this in?